Hey everybody, welcome to our 6th episode of Let's Crack It. Today it's the three of us, my old sidekick from Luxembourg, CARLO, and his friend Guillaume, also from Luxembourg. Hello, Guillaume.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking a little bit about what Guillaume has mastered. His, so to say, field of play is APIs, right? That's what you are actually working with.
Definitely.
And yeah, and he will explain us, I hope, what an API is for those that don't know what it is, but only use it. Everybody who knows Zapier definitely works with API. All the other ones, you will get a good introduction today, and hopefully will be make use of APIs. All right, Carlo, I pass you the ball over. You take over, and I'm silent.
Okay. Cool. So thank you, Phil, for the introduction. So today we have here Guillaume Monnet, which is one of my friend and actually
dearest friend.
exactly. And ex-colleague. Actually, we worked a lot together. And at one point, he decided to disappear and to leave me alone.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to perceive his dreams of creating his company and creating this amazing actually tool that actually a lot of people is using, Guillaume, right? So
I will talk numbers maybe later, but definitely.
Present yourself and tell us what you do and actually why coding.
Yeah, it's a long story, not to tell, but because it's quite an old passion that I have. I started coding in high school. I was doing C++, and I wanted to create a video game. I mean, the usual thing that you want to do as a kid. I mean, high school, are you still a kid? I don't know. But so I had these 3D spheres and 3D things, and I was struggling a lot, but I was hooked. I mean, it's awesome to be able to create, and even if coding is complicated, I mean, that was it. I was, the virus was, I got the virus. And fast forward, end of high school, I'm very bad at math. And at that time, you need a lot of math to join engineering schools, coding. There weren't any proper just coding school. It was immediately engineering something. And they all say, no, you are very good in the computer science in general, but you are bad at math, so just go away. So I studied law, like my mother, for 5 years, and I specialize in intellectual property, so trademarks, copyright, and also privacy and things like that.
You're a lawyer, actually.
Yes, exactly. But I mean, I really liked it, and I wasn't a bad lawyer because then I switched career. I will say that, but some people told me, yeah, but you switched career, but why? I mean, were you a bad lawyer? I think I wasn't that bad, and yeah, it was. I mean, I really loved this job. I worked for 6 years as a lawyer in Paris at Yahoo, and also in the music industry in Luxembourg, and for all this time, I never stopped coding. But so much that at one point I was coding every night, not the weekends. I was reserving the weekends for the family, but every night, every evening, and bigger projects. One small startup that I tried before I switched careers, it was an Instagram for pets. So you could take picture of your pet and share them. And with that, with my friend, we went on regional television. And I mean, it was fun, but it didn't work at the end. I mean, the volume wasn't there, especially if it's a social network. It's complicated. Yeah. And at one point, it was taking so much of my time just coding. I really wanted to code something, I mean, all the time. And I decided to switch career in 2015, early 2015. But it was a tough decision because when you study something for 5 years, you try to make a career and you work for 6 years. And then suddenly you understand that there is something that you love so much that you need to switch. Otherwise, you will become crazy. It's still a tough decision, but my wife was really supporting, and I did it. So from one job to another, and I am here now. And as Carlo said, we work together. and where we worked at that time, we needed a tool to mock APIs. So that's the core of it, API mocking. So this is a technique when you are using or working with any API. Most of the time it's it's not that complicated, but it can be annoying because you may have to create accounts to provision credentials, tokens, etc. Or maybe an API is not available because it's not available in development or during development. There are many reasons for an API to be unavailable. And then this is where API mocking comes, where you can imitate. It's mocking, so it's not. It's exactly the verb to mock, like mock someone, but it's also imitate an API. Now sometimes it's confusing and people are like, "Yo, who are you mocking?
Are you mocking someone?"
Exactly. And so it's imitating the APIs, so you can start working right away and you don't have to wait for it to be available, etc. So we needed that at work. So I started working on this small project during my free time. So it was a side project at first. And I continued working on it for I started in 2017. So for 4 years, it was a side project. And then I decided to quit my job to work on it full time. And that was the second hardest decision. Again, my wife was supportive, so that's good. But when you switch career and you are trying to make a career in something new, and suddenly you are like, okay, let's quit to focus full time on something that is not bringing any money. Yeah. It's a tough decision.
Yeah, indeed. I feel you.
But I guess, if you have to try. So that's basically my story. And now I'm focusing on this application called Mockoon full time, and that's my principal occupation.
Amazing. And let's talk about also some, I would say, some numbers about this application of yours, because I know that you have actually also big client, or I would say not to
users.
Yeah, users. I would say because actually we have to say that Mockoon is. It's a free resource that can be used actually, right?
Yeah, it's open source. Yeah. So numbers. That's the reason I quit my job.
Yeah.
Nobody would have let me do that if nobody was using the application. Indeed. What I did, I launched the application on the traditional startup things. It was not a startup; it was a side project, of course. But Hacker News, Reddit, and I didn't expected anything. And also the impostor syndrome is like everywhere. But so I wasn't expecting anything, not even one like. Yeah. And the feedback was really good. It was upvoted correctly. I cannot say it was first position everywhere all the time. It's not exactly like that, but it was upvoted enough. So I got 100 of interaction with people and a lot of feedback, questions, people interested, and they were saying that it was good and practical, and the interface was nice, and so I was ecstatic. And of course, it was only dozens of people, not not more. So I continued. This motivated me to continue working on it for years, and so I have a calm company because there is growth, but which is calm. It's not like the hockey stick. But it grew since, and it's never stopping. So the more and more users join or downloaded the application, the more they opened support requests, issues on GitHub. So because it's an open source project, it's published on GitHub. So it's where nearly everything is managed, published, and all the releases, the code, where I interact with people most of the time using issues. So it's like a ticketing system. And so it grew a lot. And now it's above 400,000 downloads lifetime. And I won't say an exact number right now, but it's tens of thousands of monthly active users. So it's quite a lot. And as you said, yes, my users, this was very surprising because it really appeals to big companies, people working at big companies. I would say even more than solo developers or the majority of people I interact with, or maybe the other one, they don't ask anything. I don't know, but I doubt this. Most of them are working in very big and sometimes, let's say, traditional companies like Ford, Walmart, and I know that there is a team also.
Huge. I mean,
yes, I mean for me it's huge, and it's an open source project, so it's not bringing money just like that. But and I know that there is a team that is using the application now at Booking.com. So I mean it's a lot of good feedback from a lot of people everywhere. So every day it's a new surprise, how it's used, where it's used, by whom,
and how do you track this? I mean, how do you know who is using your application?
Yeah, only by having contact with them with through support requests, for example. Because I choose also to remove most of the analytics because what really appeals to these people is the fact that it's a desktop application, which is quite rare nowadays, and it's let's say privacy friendly or security first. I mean it's on your desktop, on your computer, so there is nothing going to the cloud. And that's the exact reason we needed that where we worked together. We couldn't use the cloud. So so for them it's important. But then I only put some, let's call that a stupid telemetry system that is more like a visit counter. So I'm counting who is using, not who, but I mean how many people are using the app, but there is nothing else, and I cannot track anything, and I don't track most of it.
Okay.
So basically, in a world of tracking everything down to the T, you stand out with not tracking stuff.
Yeah, there is still a bit of tracking, but I would say it's so stupid. It's also exempted by the GDPR, because there is nothing that I can make out of it. I cannot identify anyone, so. That's the idea. It's important for me to see how many people are using the app, even if it's a vanity metric, because I mean nobody is paying, so it's kind of a vanity metric, but still.
Yeah, but it's good because it means that the application is working, and I think this somehow this strategy of not putting anything, not tracking anything, probably. It's really good for big companies because when they have to work internally, a lot of times they don't want to track anything, right? Because then
it was one of the first feedback I got, because I just put Google Analytics at the beginning, and without any opt-in, opt-out, nothing. And the first message was like, yeah, there is Google Analytics, but you cannot refuse. I said, oh, yeah, okay. So I added a checkbox the next day, just to be sure. But
so this interaction back and forth from the user, which is exactly having feedback from the user and applying this feedback to the application to tweak it, to make it better. I think it's one of the best strategy always on everything, right? On product design, on SEO with A/B testing and this kind of stuff, right? And
I think it's important.
Why did you choose to have it as an open source? I mean, why not going out with a product? And
maybe with 400,000 downloads and user, you could. We would have to pay you to have you on the podcast now.
My father is always like, why don't you ask one euro to each of them? And I'm like, but Dad, it's not working like that. It's impossible. Yeah, at the very beginning, it wasn't open source for because I built the MVP in 3 months, I think.
Whoa.
And I published, and I saw all the failure also from my previous, the Instagram for pets, building 2 years, talking to nobody, and then I met this person from marketing, and he told me, but this is not working. This is not good. The funnel of this is not right. So here I just decided to build it very quickly and release something to get feedback. And And yeah, it was an open source at the beginning. So there was a GitHub project, not project, but I mean repository without the code, just for the issue tracking or to let people open issues. And questions were immediately, is it open source? And I'm probably guilty. I mean, I jumped on it and I said, yeah, okay, why not? And at first I wanted to maybe test and then sell it for, a fixed price. And you buy the tool like you will buy another desktop application, like, $39, and it's for life. But then I realized that, and it's not what open source is about, okay? But I'm probably guilty of that. But at the beginning, I was like, yeah, okay, probably if I open source it, I will get way more people, way more interaction. And I know that developers, they really love open source. They probably feel kind of in control, they can contribute. I mean, it's an awesome way of doing things. Yes. So at the beginning, I was like, yeah, okay, probably it will bring way more people, and I will see later if there is a possibility to monetize, maybe not. And I think like 1 week later or something like that, I open sourced. But it was probably the best decision, not only for the reach part, because it's reaching way more people like that, but also because of the feedback, because of the contributors fixing things, and I mean it's just awesome. And the people I met, and sometimes I'm in a call with someone from New Zealand, and he's working on something, right. and we work together. And
I mean, I can totally relate to that. I mean, for me, the prime example of open source is Linux. I mean, honestly, I don't like it so much because it's not so fancy, animated and stuff, I work for that. But hey, it's a very stable, solid operating system that never failed me ever somehow. And I think it also has just to do with like, you don't just have this kind of workload of developers that you pay to look at this project. You have, I don't know, a multitude of people that actually can find bugs and just make it better if you have it open source. So I think open source product in general have a better quality in some sort of, I don't know, maybe you don't see it that way, but I mean, I rarely had an open source product that really just didn't work so well. Or maybe it's also like, okay, I just kind of forgive this bug or something because it's open source and I had it for free. That's also another point. But like, how do you see that? Like, would you say, making it open source, having just the brain power of many other developers that can find out like a way to just make it better? Or was that the reason why you also did it open source?
Yes, I mean, as a developer, I use tons of open source things every day. Tons, Just when I run my project, it's using Angular, it's open source, it's using this and that, it's open source, everything is open source. So it was also for me maybe a way to, give back something to the community, because I'm not contributing that much to open source. I must say, I don't open pull requests or things like that. And so it was probably a way also to give back. But I would say it depends on the project. If you have a popular open source project, it definitely gets better with the contribution of many people. You can still find good and bad things in open source, because if you open source it just means that you put a license on it, you publish, etc. And if nobody's contributing, it's only good as you wrote your initial code. So which can be very bad. We know that, we are developers. So it really depends. And so my project was also in GitHub Accelerator earlier this year. We will maybe talk about that after. What I learned from that is that each open source project is different. You have open source projects that are so popular that they get a lot of tons of contributions, but also tons of spam on GitHub. It really depends. And for example, my open source, my project is, I would say, quite popular. It only started more recently getting more contributions. I don't know if it's also, the type of audience you have, it's also people in companies, they use it at companies. Maybe they don't have time to contribute. I know some tools, for example, they have a lot of, users, like solo developers, and they are probably more willing to contribute. It's more natural for them. I don't know. It depends for every project, but it's true that open source, if it's done right, I mean, it's a philosophy. Also, it's not just for reaching more people or getting more feedback. It's also a philosophy. It leads to very, very good programs. And Linux, yeah, it's the perfect example. It's like most of the computer on this planet.
Yeah,
right. All the Androids, it's Linux. Everything is Linux. All the servers are Linux. They are not Mac or Windows. It's Linux everywhere.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Stable and open source.
Yeah.
And what about this GitHub accelerator? Tell us more about this.
Yeah, that was a surprise. In October, November last year, they announced that they will do a small accelerator. So it's not an accelerator like a Y Combinator, where they take equity or it was more like an open source accelerator where they give some money. It was $20,000 and they give coaching for some weeks. So they announced that last year. So I apply, I record the video and things that were required, and I just forget about it for months. And suddenly, I think in April, I got an email at 10 p.m., something like that. You have been accepted to GitHub Accelerator. And I was like, what? And I couldn't I couldn't believe it because I get so much spam all the time. And and that was it. So they selected 20 projects and they selected Mockoon as part of the first cohort. And it was really good. Of course, there was the money, so that was a big help. And but I think the most interesting part was the coaching. Mm-hmm. So we have several weeks. Was it 10? No, I don't remember. Maybe 10 weeks of coaching and weekly meeting, weekly working sessions, and also one weekly. So the weekly meeting with people, well known in the open source industry. So people with very popular projects like Evan Yu from Vue.js.
Okay.
And so we could ask questions, and that was awesome. And with a lot of various topics like licensing, how to onboard contributors, how to find sponsors. But as I said before, I think what I learned is that it's very different for each project. Very, very, very different. There was even one project in the cohort which was already in Y Combinator. They were just accepted in Y Combinator. For example, my project is not fit for the venture capitalist path.
Yeah, because
it's not matching because there is no growth like that. There is a calm and constant growth, but not the hockey stick.
Right.
But it was really good, and I learned a lot, and it helped me also get a few sponsors, onboard more contributors. Now there are more contributors, so I mean it's overall a very good experience.
So basically what they coach you, because you were talking about the coaching, is like how to promote your product, or how can I understand that?
Yeah, so it was a mix of a bit everything. It's like an open source project, how to manage the project, so how to get the licensing right, how to talk with contributors, how to avoid burnout, things like that. But there is a lot of burnout also in the open source field. And also, what if you want to monetize? What if you want to create a SaaS around the open source project? So this is what I'm doing right now. There are a lot of questions, of course, because there is the open source on one side, and you are creating something that is paid, and it's completely compatible to have something open source and some paid services around. You just have to do it right. So it was a wide range of advices.
What are your strategy now for this part of paid accounts? So the paid, I would say, a part of your Mockoon application.
So I launched the SaaS platform in June, I think. It was June, late June even. With one, there is only one small feature right now because I have only 2 hands and 1 keyboard, so everything takes time.
We all have.
Yeah, and it's an AI assistant. I think it wasn't it wasn't even requested by the users,
But AI is something that is really appealing nowadays. So it's I think it was also a good strategy to at least start to put something related to AI.
Yeah,
right.
And for me, it was fun. When you are working now with 6 years, I'm working on this tool. Sometimes you have to see something new. Just to not working. I'm not always working on the same thing, but sometimes it's a fix on the storage thing, again a fix on the storage thing, and that was a bit new, and it was not that complicated. But it was also like an excuse to build the SaaS platform. With a platform like that, you need all the login, sign up, the payment provider, and everything. So you have to build all of this. And then to release that, you need something that you can pay for.
Yeah,
and the next feature that I'm working on is the real-time team collaboration. So you can, when you create a setup in Mockoon, it's like in any other tool or like Google Doc. You can see the other person changing things in real time. So this is something that is, I know that some people await that, but it's also a huge amount of work. So doing this plus all the SaaS things, all the user management features, it was too much. So what I did is that I created this SaaS with the AI assistant, which was way smaller to do. I just have to get things right with the prompt, because that's complicated sometimes. So I released that. I have some subscribers. It was also a way for me, to check if there is interest, or if, it's an open source project. I don't want people to be suddenly, how can I say that, stunned by a lot of paid features. So I want to go progressively. Anyway, they will be all optional, and the core open source application stays the same. Nothing will be removed. So the strategy is to offer several optional features like that are paid.
That monetization is, I see that is like a tricky thing throughout many platforms. Also, like, because I'm in marketing and I see also a lot of people that have a huge following on various social media platforms. And somehow, like, people follow. And like, oftentimes I see people that have maybe 17,000 followers, but they do not do a cent out of that because they just don't know how to monetize that audience anymore. Or when they just drop an offer or like, hey, I have this product, please buy, people are not necessarily enticed. And I think that's something which is good that you just mentioned, that like, hey, okay, I have to go progressively. I cannot just like drop it like, now everybody, it's $15 per month, like you will probably lose 95% of everybody who's using it, because it just, why is it now a paid feature, right? So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
but for example, yesterday I had someone in a demo, someone who booked a demo, and they are interested in the team real-time collaboration thing, but it's not coming before the end of the year, I think, because it's very very complicated. And but they were also afraid that things would be removed from the app, will go paid. And I say no, open source is a philosophy. There is no way I'm removing anything that is already open source. It doesn't make sense. And even more, it doesn't make sense if it's not me that worked on this video, for example, because there are a lot of contributors who added things. I wouldn't even remember now. So I cannot remove something and say, yeah, okay, that's my, that's my copyright, and I can remove it if I want.
Right.
And anyway, the previous commit on the repository, it's still there. So it doesn't make sense, in open source. You can, you can suddenly make something not open source. Yeah. It's probably a lot of legal work, but for me, it doesn't make sense.
Too much work. Eventually, if someone also contributed to the code, actually, it's like,
it's their code.
Yeah, exactly. It's also their code, right? So
it's very complicated. I mean, it's not something that you do. So you are right. I mean, that's why also I want to go progressively. So, offering an AI assistant in one way that, I mean, that's not stupid, but it's so different from what people have right now. So I think they can understand that it's a paid feature, it's separated, they can use it or not, they can pay for it or not. But I mean, no, I'm not forcing anyone, and the app stays the same. So, and progressively, I hope that adding more features will get me more paid subscribers, and combined with the sponsoring. Let's see. Next year.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, I mean, that makes absolutely sense because the core product is still the same. You get it for free. It's still open source. But if you make a variation of it with some upgrades, why not having that monetized? Like what you just said, the collaboration is a great feature that is not necessary, but it just makes maybe a lot of things easier. And to actually save people time and make it easier, it's always good to ask a little price for it, right? Or I don't know what's the pricing, but I mean, it's fair to ask money for it. Same with AI. It's just a variation of the core product, and I can still say like, okay, it would be great, but I don't want to pay, so I keep the core product and I just put in a little bit more brain cells into figuring out myself, or I can pay for the extra again. I save time and effort with it, and that's what should be actually worth a penny or two, right?
Yeah, true.
So yeah, it's definitely a good approach.
Yeah, that's the idea with the next feature too, team collaboration. I mean, for now, when you create your setup in Mockoon, you can easily commit the configuration file in a repository, what we use to share the code as developers. But it has some limitations. Sometimes it's not perfect. So, I mean, team collaboration, it requires, a central server to synchronize everything between all the people. So, I mean, it cannot not be paid. It's complicated otherwise.
Right.
But it will be probably useful for a lot of people.
Nice. Okay, and I would say last question. I don't know if you have other afterwards, Phil. What about so promoting your application through social media? Do you have strategies on this, or you never even touched social media in this sense?
No. I'm doing things. So, I mean, my main acquisition thing is SEO. I mean, I write content, tutorials, the documentation, of course, but you don't get the same people. I mean, you get users, but it's mostly otherwise articles about APIs, tutorials, etc. Also a bit of programmatic SEO. I have like 2,000 pages of ready-to-use APIs. So, like, if you want the booking API, you can go on the website. There is the booking API, and you can load it in Mockoon to start working with their API or imitate the API more quickly. On social media, it's for me, it's very, very complicated. It's very time consuming. What I see on Twitter, which is working the most, are memes. So you can post memes all the time. No, I mean really, there are some well-known indie hackers doing that. Okay, so it's good for them, but then they have something to sell to the same kind of people, and I don't. No, a lot of my users are from traditional company. I'm not sure they are on Twitter. And when I was working in banks here, like RBC, people were using Mockoon before I arrived, and I discovered that the first day. But they are definitely not on Twitter. They are not. So I'm not even sure that for me it's speaking to the right person.
Okay.
I know, for example, in the GitHub Accelerator cohort, there was one very popular project, HTMX, which is like a Next.js competitor, but it's also a very, very different kind of tool, but it's very nice. And the person behind it is publishing like every day a lot of memes, like a bit of, he called that shit posting, jokes and things like that. And it's working well. And a lot of people now are joking around this thing because it's so easy that, I mean, jokes are very good to be made with this tool, but I'm not sure, I mean, of course, I publish. There is a Mockoon Twitter account, LinkedIn account, so I'm publishing things from time to time, but more like in a corporate way, we are really happy to release a new version.
That is LinkedIn.
Yes, that's LinkedIn. So honestly, I'm not trying to build an audience on Twitter. It's also because I don't have enough time for this. I mean, there are so many things that I need to do already. I prefer to focus on SEO. What I do, I get better results using Reddit, for example, or LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, I interact, and more people are talking about Mockoon on LinkedIn, for example. So I interact a lot with people talking about Mockoon, and I saw good interaction with this, and also Reddit, contributing on like /startup or something like that, and you say something useful, and then I usually drop the link to the project and say, yeah, for my project it was like that, and then I drop the link.
But you are so good at jokes. Why?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not good at API jokes, probably.
There's nothing to joke about. It's that serious.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's really boring.
An API is no joke.
Yeah.
No, but what you just said, like, it's definitely like, I mean, all you told me, I just saw everything on Reddit, honestly. Like, I think that a lot of devs are anyway on Reddit, like looking for stuff. I had a friend who is doing some ethical hacking at the bank. So he's constantly attacking his own bank to find loopholes, and they're constantly on Reddit. So he even talks like he's on Reddit with kind of words I don't understand because I'm just not in that jargon. But yeah, he is also a bit younger. But when you said like corporates, yeah, I mean, if you work with like bigger companies, like as you said, like Walmart, or there's what did you say? Also Volvo, I think you heard at some point. But
yeah, in nearly all the automotive companies, and yeah.
So yeah, I think that like LinkedIn is definitely also a good way to go. Even though I think LinkedIn is the cringiest of all social media platform, but it has its place. It has its place, yeah, and especially when your target audience is bigger companies, and you say like, hey, okay, the people that work in there, they are not those flexible, adventurous developers like, for example, you are, like you're sitting at home, you just cranked out a really good product that solves a lot of issues, and you're even making it better with all these upgrades. Some people are just going to work and they just do what they have to do. And if there's a tool that makes it easier, it's great, but they don't have to be looking for stuff. And I think that's where SEO is definitely a super good approach to it, because it solves similar things like you would be looking for on Reddit, because people go on Reddit with a problem, they drop the question and they find stuff. And that's what they do on Google as well. So I think it's definitely a good way to go. Yeah, I mean, also like Instagram or something, it's not something what you should be tackling for it, I mean, it's a good product. It's not sexy, but it's good, and how do you want to make it like visual, like you want to drop like a line of code. I mean,
it's complicated.
Wouldn't know. I would be like, Guillaume, what does this mean here? Drop an explanation, please. Yeah, but that's the thing, like you cannot always put all the working patterns in. It's different product, right? Different requirements for sure. So yeah, but Reddit is cool. I love Reddit. Like you find
me too. And I think you can have better interactions.
Yep.
I have the feeling with Twitter, it's very quickly drowned in everything, and you try to reply, but you are just one reply. I'm among so many. I mean, it's true on Reddit too, but I mean, I got better results with Reddit, and I can, write a longer answer.
Right. Because, I mean, Twitter is good if you have a little bit of a community, or you build up this kind of like circle where you have like people that are the same interest. Because sometimes, because I also do stuff in Webflow and I have a problem, I just drop this question there, but I know that the other people can see it. They will probably DM me. And I think just on Reddit, I get the feeling a little bit like GitHub or Stack Overflow, there's major questions and that requires major long answers. And Twitter is definitely not made for that. It's more like to connect and maybe just let's hop on a call and get away from Twitter, or X.
Definitely.
So yeah.
X.
Yeah. No, I totally feel that. Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah,
great.
Guillaume, pretty awesome fucking story. I mean, it takes a lot of balls to just like drop a job and say like, hey, look, I wrote this piece of code. It's going to be doing fantastic. And I have my wife who's backing me up. And that's like super important. Yeah. And I mean,
Absolutely.
I think that's where the fear kicks in, because I am sure there's a lot of people out there that have like similar project or like good ideas, but kind of the fear of what if it's not going to do well, and I'm scared of failure is going to keep them attached to their corporate seats, and yeah, I mean, I do similar. I have a full-time job, but one that allows me to build up my side hustle, and my supervisor is really motivating a lot of people to also build up their own company, so we don't have any discrepancies here. And yeah, I mean, I had a good setup for that, but sometimes taking a leap of faith is definitely the right thing to do. And yeah, I mean, hey, super amazing story to listen to.
Thank you. I will see if it was the right thing to do. It starts bringing a bit of revenue. So, I mean, I'm really happy, but now it's even worse than before. It's like, and what if it's not growing more, or, So I will see next year, and I'm confident because there is a huge volume of people. That's also why I quit my job to focus full time on this. But it's a bet. It's always you are betting that it will work,
Right.
and you do whatever you can to make it work. But I mean, most of the startups are failing anyway. So I will see.
But still, I mean, you already have quite a base of people that are generally interested in it. So I think it's not like you have nothing and you just jump and you're like, okay, let's hope it works, And I mean, you have people working on it, people giving you feedback like, hey, this solves my problems. And once you're having something that actually helps people, I mean, there's no guarantee for sure, but that's the best way to go for sure. Yeah, hands down.
No, but definitely, I decided to go full time only because of the volume of user. I wouldn't have do that without.
With 5.
Yeah.
3 out of the family, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a bad.
Amazing. So, well, I will say we can wrap up here, and so thank you very much, Guillaume, for your time.
Thank you.
And, we really appreciated your time for this interview, because it's always interesting to hear about people that is fucking crazy that quit their job and they start their own dream. Well, you know what? I think we have to be true on this point that our wives actually are the ones that always support, right? Because I did the same. You have the same situation, Phil, and Guillaume too. So,
we talked about that last time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, true. I mean, if you have people supporting you in life, it's even better.
Makes it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
All right, Guillaume. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Merci. Thank you for having me, and
it's a pleasure.
See you maybe one day.
Yes.
Just signed up for Mockoon. I'm gonna drop a ticket.
Exactly.
How does this work, Guillaume? I don't understand. What is an API?
Yeah, what is an API exactly?
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, everybody. Have a nice day. Thanks for
listening.
And stay tuned. See you then. Bye-bye.